This is UMass basketball.
I know this. I'm the most animated coach that you've probably ever seen in my team.
Thompson in the front court. Thompson will lay it in. And one. Hey, he's just being Frank.
That is right. It is time for another episode of Just Being Frank, coming at you from the Champion Center here in Amherst. I'm Jay Burnham, voice of the Minutemen, alongside head coach Frank Martin. Our podcast is brought to you by our good friends at the Mass Collective. You can check them out and what they're all about in terms of trying to enhance Massachusetts basketball day in and day out. The Mass Collective was at our exhibition last night, had a little pregame ceremony as well, Coach. And Coach, good to see you. We're recording this the day after your first live action against an opponent in Western Connecticut. How you doing this morning?
I'm good. I mean, I slept pretty good. So, you know, when you coach a game that actually doesn't count, you're not worried about winning or losing. And we actually played through a personality as a team that I enjoy as a coach. So I got to sleep pretty good. And here we go again for day two.
What are you looking for when you're going into one of those exhibitions, and what are you trying to take away?
We've got just too many first-year guys for me to have any idea of who's going to play well, who's not going to play well. We're all trying to learn from each other right now. So the one thing I wanted to do is, are we going to play through the personality that we as coaches have been preaching about from day one? And when the summer was over, after those 10 practices and going to Puerto Rico, the one thing that we all agreed on, and we've shared it with the players since they got back, is that offensively, we really liked how we shared the ball in Puerto Rico. The energy was awesome, but our team defense was bad. And that's kind of understandable when you got so many guys that never played together before. And I'm a pain in the you-know-what when it comes to team defense. And so we've been preaching that from day one, since they got back in September, Labor Day weekend, whenever it was. And to see us go out there and defend with some of the concepts that we're asking them to do, to play that way, you have to play with a relentless energy, because you can't give up on a play because you're trying to force people to play faster. Was fun to watch, and I thought we made mistakes, but that's part of it. But because we were making the other team play faster than they want to play, your mistakes get covered up because the other team's rushing. So we got to make sure that we continue to understand those mistakes. But extremely happy with our disciplines defensively, and most importantly, the consistent energy that we played with.
Yeah, the final at the Mullins Center, 85-41. By the way, coming up on this episode of the podcast, brought to you by our friends at the Massachusetts Collective, the official NIL partner of UMass men's and women's basketball. Massachusetts Collective, where you're supported changes and game and drive future success. Learn more and join at the masscollective.com. Coach, you've got, let me look at this box score from yesterday. What I noticed watching the game is you guys dealt with a little pressure, in the backcourt from Western Connecticut. How did you feel your point guards were able to deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, they started going to some full court zone press in the second half when, we popped that game open in the first half. And we've had to cover so much stuff in the first 3.5 weeks of practice that full court zone pressure is not something we've talked about it, but we haven't really spent time practicing it. What got us in trouble was the spacing. We didn't do some of the things we've talked about, but that's on me. That's not on them, because we really haven't practiced it. And I thought we had some turnovers from bad spacing, which is when you get pressed, the most important thing is to understand where not to dribble, which is the sideline.
Mhm.
And number two, that your floor spacing is proper. That way, it's hard to trap the ball. And we did both mistakes against that kind of stuff. We tried to dribble up the sidelines. That's a problem. And then our spacing was really bad. And so that's something we got to fix. But as far as point guard play and guys just making decisions with the ball in general, I was really pleased. You know, we had 25 assists, and I didn't think we shot it particularly well. You know, we had a couple guys make shots, but as a team, we didn't shoot it well from 2 or 3. So, you know, we just got to keep working at that. And as you do that, your assists go up.
How much should UMass fans read into who your starting 5 was last night?
They shouldn't. I mean, I told the team in the locker room before the game, I'm not one of these guys that predetermines 2 weeks ago, these are going to be my starting 5. Like, really? Like, I got a brand new group of guys. I mean, I know Matt Cross is going to start unless he decides he's not going to do what I ask him to do. Outside of that, I'm trying to figure out who fits with who's good off the bench. You know, some guys are not good off the bench. You know, some guys sit on the bench and they can see how the game's being played, and when you throw them in there, they're prepared. Some guys don't have that feel. So I got to figure all that out. I haven't been through it with these guys. And so yesterday I threw some guys out there, and I liked how we started the game, and I liked the way the guys that came off the bench, the energy that they gave us and the plays they made. But now we got one of these, you know, ultra secretive, you know, keep it quiet, don't share with anyone scrimmages on Saturday, and please don't repeat that we're scrimmaging with anybody.
I will not say anything about
keep that one between us. You know, yeah, we got to be careful. You know?
Maybe I can live tweet it. For
yeah, well, be careful. Be careful. It's a secret. It's a secret. I'm sharing it with you here, so nobody else hears about it.
It's one of those old archaic rules.
Yeah, but
we can ask Sean Kearney about that when he joins us. Hey, Sean, is he ready for all the questions we're going to fire at him?
Oh boy, he's got no idea what's coming.
Yeah, he's been a great partner, great friend. Sean Kearney, Associate Commissioner for Men's Basketball, the A-10. He'll join us here in just a little bit. Robert Davis Jr. First look at him in the exhibition, 6 of 12 from 3-point range. Your thoughts on what you saw from him last night?
I was happy. I mean, he's always been known as a shooter. But I think he brings a lot more than just shooting to the game. I think he can become a really good defender. He's got a great energy about him. You know, I joke about it with the media, and I joke about it within our team. You know how he's on social media like there's no tomorrow. I ain't worried about that. That, like, some people get worked up with that kind of stuff. He's got a positive disposition to himself. He's got an enthusiasm for who he is, for our team, for UMass, for being in school here. That's infectious. And so I'm happy his ball went in the basket because he works at it, and he's gifted that way. I'm happier that the shots were all coming from passes and not self-made shots. That means that we're understanding how to play with one another rather than trying to go make shots on our own. But yeah, I thought defensively he played well. I thought he's got to rebound better. He's a big guard, and when you're a big guard, you can't fall in love with a 3-point line and not get in there and get some rebounds. This is a team, Jay, that we're going to have team rebounding. Matt Cross is a pretty darn good rebounder, but after him, we don't have another guy that this is what I do. I know Matuk got 14, 15, whatever he got last night, which was awesome to see, but we got to be a gang rebounding kind of team, and that's where Rob has to help us.
Well, Majuk, 14 rebounds, obviously sheer size against a Division III opponent. Fans went bonkers when he had a couple of rebounds, then kicked it out, missed 3, and then he just fired one right down on a dunk, had a block on the other end. I know this is going to be a progress day by day for him, but you gave him extensive minutes in this one last night, so you certainly got to look at him.
Yeah, it's he's been awesome, and he where he was at. His high school coach at Bridgeport, Greg Brown, he swore to me that from the first time I saw him, compared to the first day he got there, that he had made unbelievable growth. And then as I continued, Derek Kellogg and Derek was the guy that recruited him. And as DK continued to watch him in that time from when we first saw him to the last time we saw him, he had improved there. And so I'm a big believer in people that improve, continue to improve. Improvement is hard. That's why some people don't get better, because getting better is really complicated and it's hard. But he did. And it's my experience. People that grow in high school grow in college. And that's what's happened with him in his first 3 months here. He's grown. He had a really good week of practice heading into that game, probably the most consistent he's ever practiced. So I'm not surprised he played well. Now with him, the word growth is the most important. He's got to continue to grow. And, you saw a snapshot of how he can impact a game, right? Especially against a team that was playing basically 5 guards. So they were trying to drag him and Josh Cohen away from the basket to defend, which is the first thing I look at, because I ask our bigs to leave the paint defensively. I asked them that. I don't want them playing standing at the rim. I need them to leave the paint, because that's what works for our man-to-man defense. And when you do that, they got to have courage, because no one's ever asked either one of those guys to do that before. They both did it, and I thought they did it well. So for the first game out, I'm excited for Matuk and who he can become.
Daniel Hankins-Sanford did not play. He's been dealing with a little bit of a foot issue, but saw him in practice. When he's in that lineup, that just gives you another guy with strength and some size, and that's something you're going to need at this juncture, especially with the youth for Matuk. And, you got Josh Cohen as kind of a big, but beyond that, that's where, the size ends with Daniel Hankins-Sanford coming in.
Yeah, we need another strong athletic body in there. Josh is 250 pounds. Daniel's 240 pounds. Matt Cross is 235 pounds. Those 3 guys they're big dudes, and they're strong dudes. Daniel also is you can sit there and argue that athletically he's as good a guy with size as we got on our team. But he also hasn't practiced in the whole preseason. Today's going to be the first day he's cleared. You saw him a shoot around, which he was cleared to do, but it wasn't up and down competitive stuff. Today's going to be the first time he's cleared to go.
He's eager to get out there too. Huh?
Yeah. I reminded him, I've been sitting around for 2 years waiting to yell at him. So all of a sudden, when he heard that one, he was like, maybe I need to play. My foot still hurts. So it's
what am I doing? Oh my goodness!
Now we're happy to have him back. Our team needs him, and he needs to be part of the team. He's a really good dude. So I'm excited to have him back.
I always, when I watch these exhibitions, Coach, I just wince at when guys go down on the floor, and I'm like, oh no, watch out. You had a couple of those moments yesterday. So how'd you come away from it, health-wise? I know you haven't had a lot of time to dissect it.
Yeah, Josh is a muscle situation with his back. That's why he didn't play the second half. He was in here with the trainer 7:30 this morning with Dave, and hopefully that thing quiets down. Obviously, I don't know about you, Jay, but I don't mess with back injuries and I don't mess with head injuries. They're the two that I don't really get in the middle of injuries anymore like we used to 10, 12 years ago. I leave that between the athlete and the trainer and our medical people and whatever they tell me. But It's not a structural issue with Josh. At least that's the what I've been told, which is the most important part. And then Jaden, he just got cramps. You know, I talked to our team a lot because they don't comprehend this yet because they're all young or, you know, different places. I want players to play to exhaustion. I don't want you to conserve yourself. You have to learn how to. When I ask a player like, yo, man, you tired? And they say, nah, man, I don't get tired. I'm like, that's because you don't play hard. It's simple as that. If you play the way I'm asking players to play, offensively and defensively, it's taxing. You have to be in shape. And if you're not in shape, you're going to get tired really fast. And I ask players to play to exhaustion. Jaden obviously did that yesterday.
Yeah.
Now, there's a difference between being tired and cramping. Big difference. Cramping is a result of, it could be nervous energy, or it can be what you put in your body the night before or the day of the game, like from, you know, maybe sodas or you know, whatever it may be. So, or not drinking enough water leading into the game. So we got to monitor that with him now to make sure it's not a problem.
Sean Kearney's in the waiting room. Do you just want me to let him in?
Yeah, bring
All
him.
right, here we go. Joining us now on the Just Being Frank. We're bringing him in right out of the gates. Joining us on the Just Being Frank podcast from the Atlantic 10 front office, Associate Commissioner Sean Kearney. Joining us now as we dial in his video. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Great. Where are you at and what are you doing this morning?
I am in Newport News, Virginia, which is kind of in between Williamsburg and Norfolk, and just working on a bunch of different things as we get ready for a basketball season.
Frank and I were joking that you're not ready for all the hard-hitting questions we're going to throw your way on this podcast. Brace yourself, all right, Sean?
Hey,
Jay and Frank, I'll do my best at being Frank.
Hey, Jay.
Yeah.
If he would have said, I'm headed to South Florida to eat some of that food down there, which I know he does, I would have been so mad at him. I would have been so mad.
All right.
It's, you know, one of the great things, Jay, which is why I thought it'd be great to have Sean on, because he knows college basketball.
Right.
He's been in it on the coaching side for a long time. And now he's decided to jump to the administrative side. And so he can give us unbelievable perspective for all our followers, the listeners, UMass folks, whoever else listens to this. In his time, how college basketball has changed.
Yeah.
And everything that's transpired from what it was 30 years ago to what it's becoming now. And obviously throw in the Atlantic 10 in there and just what a great league it is.
Yeah, I'm with you. So, Sean, why don't you start by giving us, you know, that background of where you came from and how you got to where you are and what your current duties are at the Atlantic 10.
Sure. So, it's interesting, I think, because Coach Martin and I have some similarities in our backgrounds. I'm a Philly guy. I was a bad Division III player at the University of Scranton. Not that Coach wasn't a good player. I
promise you beat me, Sean. I promise.
I wasn't even the best player in my house. My brother was pretty good. We all have mentors in our careers, and I was blessed. I had a high school coach, and I only had him for 1 year. He was there my senior year. A guy named Bud Gardler, who I really looked up to, and interestingly, and again tied with the Atlantic 10. An assistant coach at my high school, Cardinal O'Hara High School outside of Philly Catholic League, which is where your guy, Russell Diggins, is from. My assistant coach was a young guy named Phil Martelli who had hair and a mustache at the time.
Wow.
So connections go deep. I got out of college. I worked in insurance for 5 years and helped out at my high school doing a variety of things, whatever I could do. I traveled some, so I wasn't the JV coach. I wasn't the freshman coach. I wanted to try coaching my high school guy. And again, similarities here. Coach Gardler was a 5-star guy. And he wasn't an original with, say, a Hubie Brown or a Chuck Daly or some of them, but he was really with that next tier. So it was Patino, Willard, Dave Odom, some of those guys. Pete Gillen, yes, exactly. So I was fortunate. I was able to go work 5-star the summer of 86 and 87. So 86, I go up and I work in Honesdale and, was trying to get involved in college coaching. Coach Patino comes up, speaks at camp. Garf wants me to go talk to him because he's got a volunteer assistant job open. So I meet Coach Patino, and he kind of reacted because he said, "Wait a minute, this is Sean. This is the guy you want me to talk to?" Because I knew him through my high school coach. Not great, but I knew him. And so that's like July or August. By October 10th or so, I am living in the 3rd floor of a Victorian house across the street from Providence's campus. No heat, mind you. And I'm a volunteer assistant on the staff at Providence College for the 86-87 season. If you remember, we had a decent year, wound up in the Final Four, a great staff. Talk about, for both Frank and I, the people we've worked for, learned under. Of course, Coach Patino, head coach, Stu Jackson, assistant, Herb Sendek, assistant, Gordy Chiesa, who a lot of people maybe in college don't remember anymore, but a longtime NBA guy, great guy, was with the Utah Jazz for years. There was a young guy also with hair who was a grad assistant named Jeff Van Gundy, and I was the volunteer assistant. So a tremendous year. Point guard was pretty good too, Billy Donovan. Just a great team and great experience.
What a great place to be around at that time in your career.
It was unbelievable. I mean, the guys, things they were talking about, I was literally just trying to keep up. Some brilliant guys obviously went on to have brilliant careers, and still good friends to this day to different degrees. Guys take different paths. You don't see them as much as you used to, but great guys and great memories. Just quickly, the rest of my career, I wind up, Coach Patino takes the Knicks job. I go back to Philly, work with a Hall of Famer, Herb McGee, at Philadelphia Textile. And then I go to Northwestern with a coach named Bill Foster, who to this day, in terms of a college guy, really would be my guy. He's just a great man. He was a great coach. He's since passed. He was really good at everything. So I really learned a lot from him. I went to Delaware with a former assistant of his named Steve Steinwettel, had really good success there. There was a change in leadership there. Mike Bray was hired by Delaware. I wound up with Mike for 14 years at both Delaware and Notre Dame. Spent one season down the road from you guys in Worcester at Holy Cross, and then was out for a couple years, did some radio and television, and didn't lose a game during those years. And then I went to Colorado, another great guy and great staff, Tad Boyle. Boy, talk about great travel in the Pac-12. I'm disappointed that it's going to change, as it either changes a lot or goes away. And then I made the change to come to the Atlantic 10 in this role as an associate commissioner. And in my role, Jay and coach, I work with our coaches. I work with our ADs. I'm the guy, if you're mad at the schedule, basically I'm the guy that is the lead guy in the schedule.
I tried to keep that quiet, Sean. You didn't need to let that cat out of the bag, man.
Jay and coach, I hit send on that schedule and then I duck, it's like, here it comes.
So we've only name dropped pretty much every significant coach in the last couple decades. Real impressive. You're right. Frank, talking about you're always talking about having coaches representation. Yeah. And Sean kind of presents that on the administrative side.
It's the biggest difference. And I'm not saying one's right, one's wrong. I'm not smart enough to determine what works and doesn't work on a lot of stuff, okay? Administrators forever and ever were coaches that got tired of coaching or just chose a different path. And then administration started tilting where administrators became fundraisers. I'm not here to criticize, but they don't comprehend the journey of a coach. Like Sean knows, because he's lived it, when to show up, when to pick up the phone and make a certain phone call. He also knows when not to make that phone call. Some administrators, since they never actually did this side of the job, don't comprehend that having a meeting at 7 a.m. the day after you lose to your conference rival, probably not the right day to expect your head coach to have a civilized conversation about something. I get it. It has to happen, and we're professionals, we'll do it. But that balance of non-coaches and coaches together in an administrative role, I think is powerful. And, here in the A-10, Bernie, our commissioner, she's a former player. The whole deal. Sean, he gets it. It's awesome. It's they comprehend our journey. They fight administratively for the things that need to happen because there's some administrative stuff that as coaches we got no idea about, nor do we understand it, how it works, because we're not that's not the meetings that we're educated to be a part of. So Sean helps us comprehend. At the end of the day, we have to know what battles to fight, what battles not to fight, and then the way things are working so we can all pull in the same direction. And that's what Sean does that for us. And he gives us clarity as the 14. How many are we? 14 or 15?
15 coach.
I'm sorry, I got twisted there for a second.
Is that
the 15 coaches? Because he said it jokingly, but with Sean, us 15, the phone calls he gets from us as soon as he sees his name at this time is a schedule. Now, once we get away from the schedule, it's to complain about officials. Sean, this guy this guy this guy this, and he's our sounding board because we can't say that to anybody else. If we say that publicly, obviously it's wrong, and we can't say that to our players because then they're going to get teched up. We can't say that to my boss because then my boss thinks I'm a whiny, whatever. So Sean's our only outlet. So we call Sean like Sean,
therapist?
And so he's but he gets us. He understands because he's been on that saddle.
What do you think about that, Sean?
Well, I think number one, I've had a lot of good help and support here in the conference office to learn to become a good listener, and not only from my conference office, but also my counterparts in some of the other leagues where I have good friends. Certainly, Frank knows them well too. Most of them are former coaches, and they've been through it too. I would certainly describe myself as very coach sympathetic. These are our jobs. Winning is hard. And even for those that look from the outside and see resources or see whatever certain schools have, it's hard from top to bottom. I think about, and Frank mentions changes in college basketball. I don't know how many years ago where it was still new that there were one and dones. And I was always amazed at what John Calipari would do with a brand new team every year. And they'd be, if not only competitive, fighting for a national championship in short time. And now so many of our coaches are dealing with the same thing for different reasons with transfers and all that goes on. But these jobs are hard, whether you're at Kentucky, with all the expectations that are there, down to the lesser schools. I think we might be at 362 now in terms of Division I programs where resources are not very strong, and they're still expected to find a way to win. And as I used to try and explain to some people, every time a team goes 25-5 in the season, somebody else has to go 5-25. Maybe not exactly, but that's how the numbers work out. And I wasn't that smart, but I can figure that math out.
Yeah, if I can add something to what Sean just said there, Jay. So in 17, I was fortunate. My team plays their hearts out, and they give me the ride of a lifetime. I go to the Final Four. Business, U.S. business, whatever, report weekly, whatever that business publication is, did a study of how much money each team in the Final Four spent on each individual basketball player. Gonzaga spent $25,000 more per athlete than we did at South Carolina. So, Sean, one of the things you're talking about is everyone thinks that the next small school that has a good year, they're the next Gonzaga. If you're not willing to spend that kind of money like Gonzaga does on each individual basketball player, you're not going to be the next Gonzaga. And I think that's the biggest, with 362, the number of teams, 60, whatever it is, there's only so many Duke Kentuckys. the majority of us are all in the same boat, and the ones that commit those kind of resources have a chance to be the next Gonzaga. The ones that don't, you're not.
Yeah, and I think that most evident by how much the runs by Gonzaga and certainly where they are now, have kind of hurt mid and low level programs who think they should be the next Gonzaga.
Correct.
And I think that goes back to the fact of where some of the administrators who were former coaches and now have different backgrounds. And believe me, there are some brilliant ones out there that didn't coach. But there are some other administrators and presidents who feel like, why can't that be us? But not understanding the commitment and the resources that it takes, to go that route. I do think that we're fortunate in our league. And again, not everybody has the same resources. But I think we have a terrific group of athletic directors to work with, your own staff there on campus, Ryan, Kirsten. I know Dave just got a promotion. I'm thrilled for him. I think you've got, terrific support there. And I think it matters to your entire staff. Like it really does take a village. You've got, your assistants in Alan and Brian. And I know you've just added Brett Nelson. I don't know Brett personally. I know he had a terrific playing career, has coached with really good head coaches, down towards like your strength coach, Tony, and David, your trainer. I worked with Jeff Smith on our COVID committee. So I know you've got good support there and good people, and jobs are hard and winning's hard. And Sean, know that better than most.
Hey, Sean. So Dave Biancamano, who you just mentioned, he's an aspiring athletic director. I get hired here. He's my oversight, and he chooses to get out. Like, should I feel bad about that? Should I go home and say, "Wow, my personality's just like unbelievable."
Oh, he's done a great
he's
job.
awesome.
We're
so happy for him.
And connecting donors back with campus. It's been awesome to have him on staff for sure. Sean, you mentioned the Pac-12, and then you threw in there, it's the dissolving of it. Looking at the A10, added a team last year, right? What are the conversations like as you guys sit around talking about this shifting world of conferences and college sports, basketball in particular? What are those conversations like for the A10 and kind of the future that you see for it?
Yeah, I think that, first off, I can't tell you that we do sit around and talk about, a lot in terms of us specifically. Certainly we monitor it. We see what's happening, in the Northeast in particular. I think the fact that we don't have football really for the most part keeps us just a little bit above the fray, and certainly monitor it and see what might make sense. I mean, just recently, it might have been yesterday, seeing headlines about the ACC and now being at 18 and what they're going to do with their conference championship. Teasingly, I think I texted Paul Brazo at the ACC and asked him, I couldn't Google and find an 18-team bracket, so I was trying to figure out what they're going to do.
Not everybody's coming, right? Is that that's the out?
That's a hard reality sometimes. I don't know where they would go with that, and I guess they're talking about possibly maybe not everybody is there when they get to that when they add those other schools. But it's, we were really fortunate to add Loyola, terrific program, certainly for basketball. And I know they had a rough go last year. I expect them to be much improved this year. A really good young and upcoming coach in our profession, in Drew Valentine. And, that's been a good addition for us. But, leagues getting bigger and bigger is hard. It's hard to have, big numbers. You think of, the Big East, I think they're at 11. The WCC might be at 9 now, after they lost BYU. And so it's interesting. And we talk about generics, but maybe not a whole lot of specifics right now.
You sit around.
You guys had these conversations day in and day out just because we always talk about it. Sorry, Coach, go ahead.
No, I was going to say in my college coaching or my coaching lifetime, not my life from born to now. Since I've been coaching, you think of the A10 Loyola Chicago, Final Four. Davidson, Elite Eight. UMass, Final Four. Phil went to the Final Four.
Number one.
Yeah, GW, Elite Eight. I mean, you go up and down the line. The
Mason Final Four,
Mason
VCU Final Four. Sure.
You
Yeah, great history.
LaSalle. They went to a Sweet 16 a couple years ago with Giannini. Not a couple, but I was at South Carolina maybe 7, 8 years ago. It's unbelievable the successes that every one of these teams in this league has had in the NCAA tournament. I think that's something that no one really speaks about. This league is really good. It's got really good programs, and to Sean's point, I don't know every administrator yet. I'm too new to the league, but you don't have that kind of success by mistake. It takes a lot of people on your campus rowing in the right direction.
Yeah, it certainly is a basketball-centric league. It's huge for us, certainly on the men's basketball side, and we're trying to promote the women's basketball side. Certainly your program had terrific success last year, and we're looking for more success in the future for all of our women's programs as well. But you're right, it does take commitment. We do have people on campus in all of our facilities that really care. But as we mentioned, resources matter. I think that, what Coach Schmidt has done at St. Bonaventure truly is amazing. They don't have the biggest budget, and that's not a knock on them. They do the best they can, and he continues to put out really good teams and recruit really good players and coach the heck out of them.
He's really good. He's really good. Like the nation has no idea how good he is. He's really good. And it's fun to be around too. Like it's hey Sean, how about his play card? Like most of us have an index card. I mean, he's that thing like in
menus.
Oh my God.
So Frank, I don't know if you were down there, but we had media day just last week in Brooklyn. It was a really good day for everybody. And while people were waiting outside of the stations downstairs, Fran Dunphy was telling stories with Mooney and Schmidt, and he was killing Schmidt about how he's walking up and down the sideline. He said he probably walks like 8 miles during a game. Then he said, and then the play card. He's like, Fran Dunphy, Coach Dunphy was saying like he has like 8 plays, and it's hard for him to remember 8. And of course, he has like 108.
Like here's my play card right now, and this has everything: offense, defense, and literally
that out, Coach. All right?
I'll be on the bench and I look at it. I look at it and I don't know half. In the middle of the game, I'm like, I don't know that. I don't know that. Just I run this, and it's the one play I've been running for 100 years. He's got like, it's unbelievable. He's really this league. How about Dumpf? I didn't even mention him. We were talking about the coaches in this league. He's an icon. Like we were talking the other day, how he broke into the business. He was just trying to make a USA basketball team, and because of that, he got an opportunity. And high school coach, like just a grinder, man, and one of the elite people in this business. And we're like having him as a resource for us coaches in this league is so powerful.
Sean, talk a little bit about that, about when you look at the cachet of coaches that the A-10 has and how that compares to, other leagues at this level.
Well, I think, Frank mentions Coach Dunphy, and again, as a Philly guy, I've always, everybody has their area. Certainly, I think the people in Miami and South Florida, have put their arms around Coach Martin, and you really lean on those people. Well, Philly was that for me. It's kind of been interesting because my relationship with Fran has grown the last, I'd say 5 years or so. And just Frank mentioned it, elite man. Forget about his coaching. And he's been in so many places, and he's adapted, and he's just been so good to people. Younger coaches and everything. But you're right. I mean, the amount of coaches. I mean, Coach McKillop, what he did at Davidson all those years, and did it a certain way and had a certain style, and and then you just kind of go down the line. A guy like underrated Keith Dambrot. All he ever did in the Midwest was win, and then he winds up at his father's alma mater in Duquesne, and I think they're poised to have a terrific season this year. They were good last year and got better, and I think they'll be terrific this year. And it's just kind of I think we run the gamut from a young Drew Valentine, Keith Ergo, Chris Caputo, up to Coach Dunphy, and Travis Ford. I mean, terrific player. He'd been a great coach. And what coaches don't, or sometimes fans and even sometimes administrators don't understand how hard league play is from top to bottom, and then certainly how hard it is to win on the road. You think you have a good team and you should go 16-2, but it's just so hard to do.
Sean, and I'm not trying to drag you into this conversation because this is something that.
Wait, hold on, Sean. This is what he does. He brings you.
Oh no, because he just made a comment, and in league meetings, you have the perspective of not just the A-10 in every league. Let's play more league games, and coaches are like, stop, because the games are so hard that by the time the league conference season is over, I don't care what league you're in, you're exhausted. You're like emotionally spent. Your players are physically beat up, and so that's like what he just said. It's hard, man. You're dealing with Dump on a Tuesday night, and then you got to go deal with Travis Ford on a Saturday or Friday or whatever day you play, and it's complicated, man. It's really, really difficult. And so that's where I was saying, Jay, because I didn't want you to use what I said to try and drag Sean into how many games are we playing. And
now I'm just going to...
I'm not doing that to Sean.
Now I might straight up ask him, like, what's the prevailing theory behind how many conference games is the right amount of conference games?
Sure. So, Jay, prior to me coming, at least a few years, I think the Atlantic 10 was at 16 games. 16 league games. Then they went to 18. It's been 18 since I've arrived. There was long discussion about 2 seasons ago, before Coach Martin got here, when other teams were going to 20. And one of the reasons for it was that because the Autonomy 5, often called the Power 5 in public, when many of them were going to 20 games, that it significantly reduced the inventory of non-conference games. And as a result, the discussion was, should we also go to 20? Big discussion among administrators and coaches, and we decided to stay at 18. There are some, certainly, some of the points that Frank made in terms of, conference play is hard. And even as you just think about the numbers, when you play 18 games, within the league, you're going to go 500. It's how the math works out. If you add 2 more non-conference games, if you're playing at a good percentage, you're going to win 60, maybe even 70% of those non-conference games. And in terms of the metrics, it's not going to move the needle like all the way over, but it may move it some by having 2 more wins on your schedule rather than going 1-1 or 0-2 in conference games.
Yeah, that's the difference. I'm gonna drag this back to UMass. That's what Sean just explained, is the difference between what John Calipari was able to do with his schedule at UMass in the 90s after he built the program, where he can play a lot of these power schools, home and homes and neutral sites, and the challenges of doing it now. Because everybody back then was at 14 and 16 games, and there were a lot more games to be had. Now, most of those Autonomy 5 schools, they're scheduled, the upper echelon of those leagues, not only are they playing 20, wasn't there even talk about going to 22, Sean, in the Big Ten or something like that? I thought I heard once upon a time.
Well, I think that, as they get even bigger, there's that possibility. They have not gone there yet, but it's been talked about, because then you add in the TV. TV would rather have, Michigan versus Wisconsin than Michigan versus Eastern Michigan. No offense to Eastern Michigan.
And it's where I was going. So then your upper echelon of all those autonomy fives, they're playing more conference games. And then television has gotten so involved in non-conference scheduling for those schools that they're matching up all these challenges. So let's say, I'm not going to pick a school. It's not the right thing to do. But School A from an autonomy 5 league, they only got 3 or 4 games they got to get in non-conference play. And usually those are their bye games. And so their schedules are made, so it makes it really challenging for me at UMass to drag a autonomy 5 school into a home and home, because they just don't have the windows. And and that's and we don't want to get bought. Like, we're too good a league to be running around selling ourselves. I'm not a fan of getting bought. I don't agree with that, but it is what it is. Some people have to do it for the obvious reasons. So it's made it really difficult for us to get those kind of people on our schedule. I'm speaking for UMass, not the A10. Those kind of folks on our schedule here.
Also, some of those teams, like, they don't play a true road game for the first 2 months of the season until their first non-conference game. I would prefer having, just from my fandom, having the experience of playing on the road in a hostile environment in the non-conference to prepare you for the conference. What do you think, Sean?
Certainly I think that is a good experience, and it helps, but also there is the confidence factor, where, both with the coaching staff, coaches having confidence in your team and your players, and also players having confidence in that coaching staff as well. And especially when, you have a shorter time period to get a group together. I mean, it's not like, so many of our coaches, as coaches, I think most of us will rely on that point guard or that guy on the floor that you can really rely on. Well, now you don't necessarily always have them back every year. Like,
right.
There's nothing better than having a freshman or sophomore point guard that you really love, and he's going to be your quarterback for, another 2 or 3 years. Now it's like, okay, who's my guy? And I think, Jay and Coach, for your fans and your followers, I wish they could see you at practice and see the energy and the teaching that happens, not only from you as you lead a practice, but from your staff. And, I was at a practice, I think it was a year ago, and, you're demanding, but you're fair. I think you might even have a little bit of sarcasm in your background. Jay, one of my favorite lines, one of his players, I think, was going back and forth from a little bit of injury, and I don't know if he was playing a lot, wasn't practicing a lot, and Coach pulled out the Mr. Miyagi line, where he went and had that guy back on the floor somehow.
That healing hands of Frank Martin, that's a first for me. So do you get to go and take in practices from all of the teams in the A10? Do you make those trips?
Yeah, Jay, it's not always. I was up in the region, and I was able to hit both Rhode Island and UMass, and I was able to stop by practice. It's what I'm most comfortable with. I really don't like going to a game, and I stick my head in, and Coach is either looking at the board still or trying to figure it out while guys are warming up. I usually give it a hello. Sometimes guys will talk and spend 10 minutes, and other guys kind of like wink at me, and I know it's best to head back out the door. But I would much rather attend a practice or even a shoot around, and just, it's where I'm most comfortable. It's where I spent 30, 35 years. I want coaches to know I'm there, I'm supportive. But at that point, as some older coaches would say, the hay's in the barn, and now they got to go play.
As a former coach and now administrator, what are your opinions on the NIL world that has been created, and what does that look like for the league as a whole?
Yeah, I have a lot of different thoughts on it. I mean,
figured you would.
Yeah, having been involved in it for so many years, I think the origins of it are wonderful. Like, I wish the kids who we were selling a jersey with their name on it. Like they should have gotten all those things. And if they could have gone down and done a commercial for the local car dealer to get a car, to get, $1,500 for the spot, it's gone completely, to the far right or left now. And none of that was intended. And believe me, I want everything that we can get for these kids. But I'm just hopeful that we can come up with some guidelines. I do know that your former governor, who I think has a tremendous reputation, Charlie Baker, trying to get some work done with our NCAA staff, with legislation. I just hope they can reel it in. And again, I would want everything we can get for these kids, especially, we both dealt with kids who came from, terrific family backgrounds and resources, and kids who had absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I would want them to have access. I don't know if I would go so far as to say, all this TV revenue talk and all those things. I think I saw something on Twitter, not that it was completely accurate, but I don't think that the normal fan understands that not many programs, operate in the black. And I think even the NCAA wise, only they listed maybe 5 programs that actually, make revenue. Certainly men's basketball who run, I don't know, my numbers may be a little bit off, but the men's basketball TV contract runs about 95% of all championships in the NCAA. And that in general, football money goes to schools but not the NCAA.
Mm.
So just some quick reactions from my side.
Well, if you're on Twitter, watch out, because they've got the A10 having a new team every single day, or losing 5 teams every single day. So be careful with that. Coach, you got anything else for Sean here before we say goodbye?
It's kind of one of the last times I'm going to be in a good mood to have a conversation. So I'm like, no, man, it's awesome. Sean, that's why him being on the call with us here, I thought would be great, because Sean has great perspective on the landscape of our profession, our sport, and our league.
Yeah.
And being a Northeast guy, a Philly guy, he's felt with UMass, even though he was not in Philly anymore back then, those Temple, UMass, Cheney, Calipari rivalries I don't know if I'm misspeaking here, because I'm not a Northeast guy. I've kind of been adopted into this great basketball pocket of our country. But what John Cheney did for the A10 back in the day was so powerful. And what Calipari did for the A10 back then was so powerful. And it's given all of us a great league to be a part of now, years later. And Sean, being a Philly guy and so knowledgeable about our business, I thought would be a great person to speak on all that.
Sean, let me leave you with this. If you could give us kind of your thoughts on the strength of the league this season as we get ready for the start of the year. And I know you guys had media day. There's voting in terms of the first and second and third teams and all that stuff. What is your opinion of the league this year versus last year?
Yeah, I think it's always interesting, and part of that I have to deal with as we look for pairings and scheduling, in doing the conference schedule. But I think we'll have some of the same schools at or near the top, certainly from our preseason poll. But I do think there were some teams that ended last year on a good note and then returned a lot, which I think is a big factor for coaches in this day and age. So I think of a Duquesne, a Bonnie's, a St. Joe's. St. Joe's has a good big kid who sat out last year that people are very, very high on. Now, who knows? But then so many programs with different players. I think the league's going to be very strong this year. And I think we're going to have, many programs that'll kind of come out of the blue. And as Coach talked about, when you look at his schedule, and this is something that I'm sure as head coaches, they learn not to do maybe after year one. You start looking, well, we should get that one. And then, probably that one. And then at the road, that's not a hard place to play always, but we'll get that one. And you start counting them up and you're done. You're dead in the water. I think it's going to be an extremely competitive year. I'm anxious to see what we do in the non-conference, and that's a big part of where we fall into, postseason consideration. I do think, Coach, from last night, I didn't get to see your game, but I did take a look at the box score. I was more of an offensive guy, which is probably why I was only a one-year head coach. I was enthused by 6 for 12 from the Davis kid, and also that you made 18 threes. Your defensive numbers look good. I'm not sure how good or strong the opponent was. I also know you played a lot of guys, but I hope you felt good about it after completing that game. I'm sure you watched the film or will watch the film with your staff.
Yeah, Sean, early, like the tie, what's that cute line people use now? Let's tie a bow around what Sean just said. Like the guard, you need bigs to win. Can't win without guards. That's the best way I can. The starting guards at GW, the starting guards at Duquesne, yes. The starting guards at St. Bonaventure, the starting guards at St. Joe's.
Yep.
You go win it. I coached in the SEC for 10 years. You win games in the SEC with those guards, and then the rest, everyone else, there's a lot of unknown. And because of that unknown, I don't think anyone realizes nationally of, where the league can be. VCU, Dayton, they've been our best teams in this league here for the last, 4 or 5 years, whatever. Dayton's got pretty much their team back, and Deron Holmes is a pro.
Yeah.
VCU, they lost Mike. They hired a great dude in Odom, and he's got a really good team again. The league's really hard. And then from our perspective, a lot of the unknown, Sean, I wanted us to play with a purpose. I don't want to just play to play. We've got more guards than we did than I've had the last couple of years. My last team is South Carolina and here. So we're trying to play a little differently because of the personnel we got. I was happy to see that we took good threes, not forced threes. And then that we played with a team personality defensively, which we did. Like everyone else, so early, you got to clean a lot of stuff up. But this team seems to want to play with a personality that as coaches we've been preaching about, and they want to please what the coaches are pleasing about, and that's a whole lot of fun to be around.
Yeah, that's great. That just encourages me more about your group, and certainly for the upcoming season.
Are we going to get you at a game up here?
Yes, I'm planning to be at the Harvard game, so I'm coming to Amherst shortly.
That's
interview him when he's in town. Get him on with you.
You guys are going to kill me, but we got football that day, so that's the one game I'm not going to be at. But we'll get somebody to interview Sean. I know.
Hey, Sean, all these helmets are the same way, man. All these helmets, I'm just telling you.
We'll be down in Virginia that day.
These helmets, they face mask or batting helmets, they're all the same.
He's Associate Commissioner of the Atlantic 10, Sean Kearney. Sean, thanks so much for joining us. He is head coach Frank Martin. Excited to see what his team will do this season. We'll talk more about that next week. Until then, my name's Jay Burnham saying so long from Amherst.